I, 32F, stood by the small fold-out table covered in a pink unicorn tablecloth. My daughter Lily was 6 years old today. Her friends were running around the backyard, their shrieks of laughter filling the air. My husband Mark was manning the grill, flipping burgers with a smile that reached his eyes. It was supposed to be a perfect day, a simple, happy day for our little girl. I had spent weeks planning everything, from the custom-made cake shaped like a castle to the little party favor bags filled with stickers and candy. I wanted it to be special. I wanted her to feel celebrated and loved unconditionally. My mother, Eleanor, picked up a napkin and delicately dabbed at the corners of her mouth, even though she hadn't eaten anything. Her eyes scanned my dress. It was a simple blue sundress, comfortable and practical for chasing after a pack of 6-year-olds. I felt good in it. It was a gift from Mark, and it made me feel pretty. "That's a lovely color on you, Clara," she said. Her voice was just loud enough for the other parents nearby to hear. I smiled, a little surprised. A compliment from her was a rare thing. "Thank you, Mom." She tilted her head, her smile tightening just a fraction. "You know," she continued, her voice carrying a little further now, "this dress would look so much better on your sister." The air went still. The laughter of the children seemed to fade into a distant hum. It felt like a punch to the gut, swift and sickening. I looked at her, searching her face for any sign that it was a joke, a poorly worded observation. But there was none. Her expression was placid, almost smug. She had said it deliberately. She wanted it to land exactly how it did, in front of my friends, at my daughter's party. All the years of her little digs, her backhanded compliments, her blatant favoritism toward my sister, Sophie, coalesced into a single hot point of anger in my chest. I had always swallowed it. I had always smiled and changed the subject to keep the peace. For my father. For the family. For the illusion that we were normal and happy. But she had done this here. In my home. On Lily's day, my vision narrowed. I saw the other moms exchange quick, uncomfortable glances. I saw Mark stop flipping, indignant in a split second. "How dare you speak to me that way?" she hissed, her voice low. "I am your mother." "And I am a mother," I said, "and you will not ruin my daughter's birthday. You will not disrespect me in my own home ever again, so you need to go." My father finally looked up, his face pale. "Clara, honey, let's not make a scene," he murmured, taking a hesitant step toward us. "The scene has already been made," I said, not taking my eyes off Eleanor. "She made it, and now she is leaving." Sophie, who had been chatting with a cousin, came over, a confused frown on her face. "What's going on, Mom?" "Your sister is throwing me out," Eleanor said, her voice trembling with manufactured hurt. She was playing to the audience now. The poor, misunderstood mother being attacked by her ungrateful child. "Just go, Mom," I said. It was an order, not a request. Eleanor stared at me for a long moment, her eyes filled with a cold fury I had never seen directed at me so openly. It was usually veiled, hidden behind a polite smile. This was raw. She turned on her heel without another word, grabbed her purse from a lawn chair and stalked toward the side gate. My father scurried after her, muttering apologies over his shoulder that weren't directed at me. Sophie stood frozen, looking from me to our mother's retreating back, her expression a mixture of confusion and annoyance. She was annoyed that I had disrupted the peace. Mark was by my side instantly, his hand warm on my lower back. "Are you okay?" he whispered. I nodded, though I was shaking. "I am now," I said. I turned and looked at the other parents, who were all trying very hard to pretend they hadn't heard anything. I forced a bright smile. "Who wants more cake?" I asked, my voice trembling only slightly. The party continued. The kids were oblivious, lost in their world of games and sugar. But a shadow had fallen over the day. I went through the motions, handing out juice boxes and cutting slices of cake, but my mind was a million miles away. I had finally done it. I had finally stood up to her, and I had no idea what would happen next. I only knew that something had broken, and made me feel a small, sharp pang of guilt. I had made my mother unhappy. It was a feeling I had been trained to avoid at all costs. "Don't you dare feel guilty," Mark said, seeing the look on my face. "Think about Lily. Would you want her to let someone talk to her that way, even her own grandmother?" "No," I said instantly. "Never." "Then you did the right thing," he said, pulling me into a hug. "You showed her what your boundaries are. It's about time." The second text came an hour later. It was from my father. "Your mother is devastated. You really need to call her and apologize, Clara. Just smooth things over. You know how she gets." I stared at the phone. Just smooth things over. That had been his mantra for my entire life. It was his solution to every conflict, every hurt feeling, every time Eleanor's cruelty bubbled to the surface. He wasn't a peacekeeper, he was an enabler. His desire for a quiet life had always been more important than my emotional well-being. "I'm not apologizing," I said to Mark, my voice firm. "I did nothing wrong." "Good," he said. "Don't. This isn't on you to fix." Then came the call from Sophie. I let it go to voicemail. I wasn't ready to hear her tell me I had overreacted. I wasn't ready for her to take our mother's side, even though I knew she would. She always did. Sophie lived in the warm glow of our mother's favor, a place I had never been allowed to stand. Why would she ever want to challenge the system that benefited her so much? Her voicemail was exactly what I expected. "Clara, what happened today? Mom is a complete mess. Dad said you kicked her out. That's insane. She was probably just making a weird joke. You know how she is. You can't take everything so seriously. You really need to call her. This is tearing the family apart." Tearing the family apart. As if the family wasn't already fractured and broken, held together by my silence and my father's avoidance. My standing up for myself wasn't the thing breaking us. It was just revealing the cracks that had been there all along. I deleted the voicemail. I turned my phone off. I didn't want to hear from any of them. I wanted to sit in the quiet of my own home, with my husband who loved me other times. I said, my voice quiet. All the things I let slide. I remembered my college graduation. My mother had spent the entire celebratory dinner talking about Sophie's upcoming high school play, where she had the lead role. I remembered my wedding. During her toast, my mother had spoken for 5 minutes about how she hoped Sophie would find a man as suitable as Mark one day. She barely mentioned me. I remembered the day Lily was born. The first thing my mother said when she saw her in the hospital bassinet was, "She has your nose. Let's hope she gets Sophie's hair." Each memory was a small stone, and I had been carrying them in my pockets for years. Now, it felt like I was finally emptying them out, feeling the weight lift with each one. "Why do you think she did it today?" I asked Mark. It felt different, more intentional. "I don't know," he admitted. "Maybe she's just getting more bold because you've never stopped her before. Maybe she felt threatened seeing you so happy, in your own home, with your own family." His words resonated with me. My life was good. I had a loving husband, a wonderful child, a home I was proud of, and a job I enjoyed. I wasn't competing with Sophie. I wasn't vying for my mother's approval anymore. Maybe that was the problem. If I didn't need her approval, she had less power over me. And my mother thrived on power. The next morning, I turned my phone back on. There was a barrage of missed calls and messages. A group text had been started by my mother. It included her, my father, Sophie, and me, Eleanor. "I am still waiting for an apology for the disgusting way I was treated yesterday in front of everyone. Sophie. Mom. Maybe just give her some space. Clara, please just call her. This is getting out of hand. Robert. Let's all just calm down. A simple phone call can fix this." I stared at the messages. They were a united front. The victim, the mediator, and the enabler. And I was the villain. The unreasonable, hysterical daughter who had caused all this drama.
I typed out a reply before I could second-guess myself. I will not be
My mother's younger sister. They were not particularly close, but Carol had always been a straight shooter. She saw her sister for who she was, with clear eyes. I heard there were some fireworks at Lily's party, she said as soon as she answered the phone. You could say that, I said wryly. Who told you? Your father called me this morning, she said. He was in a panic. Said you threw Eleanor out and she's threatening to never speak to you again. She's the one who won't speak to me unless I apologize, I corrected. And I'm not going to. I explained exactly what my mother had said. Carol sighed heavily on the other end of the line. Clara, I'm so sorry. That's just awful. And in front of other people, too. That's her classic move. Public humiliation so you're too embarrassed to fight back. Well, I fought back this time, I said. Good for you, Carol said, and she sounded like she meant it. It's about damn time someone did. You know, she was always like this, even when we were kids. Everything was a competition. She always had to be the center of attention, the one in control. We talked for a while longer. It was validating to hear someone else confirm that I wasn't crazy, that my mother's behavior wasn't normal, that I wasn't just being too sensitive. Before we hung up, Carol said something that stuck with me. Be careful, Clara. When your mother feels like she's losing control, she doesn't back down. She escalates. I have a feeling this is about more than just a mean comment. Her words sent a chill down my spine. What could it be about? I pushed the thought away. I didn't want to spiral into paranoia. For now, I just needed to hold my ground. A few days passed in silence. No calls, no texts. It was unsettling. I was used to the constant, low-level hum of family obligation in the background of my life. The silence was loud. Part of me was relieved. Another, smaller part of me, the part that had been conditioned since birth, was anxious. I had broken the unspoken rules and I was waiting for the punishment. Mark was a rock. He checked in with me constantly. How are you feeling about it today? He'd ask. He didn't push me to talk, but he made it clear he was there to listen. He took Lily to the park, handled dinner, and did all seen as a sign of weakness, an admission that I couldn't handle the consequences of my actions. It would be an invitation for her to regain control. I had to stay strong. The next weekend, Sophie called again. This time, I answered. I knew I couldn't avoid her forever. Clara, you need to fix this, she said, without even a hello. Her voice was strained with frustration. There's nothing for me to fix, Sophie, I said calmly. Mom was cruel to me. I asked her to leave. End of story. It's not the end of story, she exclaimed. It's affecting everyone. Mom is miserable. She just sits around the house crying. Dad is walking on eggshells. It's horrible. So Mom's behavior is my fault? I asked. Her reaction to being held accountable is my responsibility? She's our mother, Sophie shot back, as if that explained everything. You can't just kick her out of your life. She said one stupid thing. You know how she is. You just have to let it go. No, I don't, I said, my patience wearing thin. I have let things go my entire life and I'm done. Why are you so determined to defend her, Sophie? You were there. You heard what she said. There was a pause on her end. When she spoke again, her voice was different. It was less angry and more pleading. Because it's easier this way, Clara. It's just easier if you apologize. We can all go back to normal. Your normal is not my normal, I said quietly. My normal involves not being insulted in my own home. My normal involves my sister standing up for me when our mother is being a bully. I'm not getting in the middle of this, she said quickly. This is between you and Mom. You're already in the middle of it, Sophie, I said. You're standing on her side. You always have. That's not fair. Isn't it? I asked. The dress would have looked better on you, she said. Did you think that was a nice thing to say to me? She was silent for a long moment. It wasn't nice, she finally admitted, her voice small. But you blew it way out of proportion. I don't think I did, I said. I think I finally gave it the proportion it deserved. I took a breath, just flipped the board over. A few days later, a letter arrived. It was in my mother's elegant, looping handwriting. I opened it with a sense of dread. It wasn't an apology. It was a list. A list of all the things she and my father had ever done for me. It detailed the money they had spent on my education, the car they had helped me buy in college, the down payment they had gifted us for our house. Each item was listed with an approximate monetary value. The letter ended with a single paragraph. After all we have given you, after all the sacrifices we have made, your behavior is a slap in the face. You are an ungrateful child. I see that now. Perhaps Sophie was right. You have always been jealous of the love we show her, but she has earned it through her kindness and respect. You have not. I read the letter twice, my hands shaking with a rage so intense it made me feel sick. This wasn't a letter from a mother to a daughter. It was a transaction. It was an invoice for love. She was literally telling me that her affection had a price tag, and I was in default. I showed it to Mark. He read it, his expression growing darker with each line. When he finished, he folded it carefully and placed it on the table. "This is insane," he said, his voice low. "This is a weapon. She's trying to guilt you into submission by throwing money in your face." "It's working," I whispered. I did feel guilty. The house, the car, we wouldn't have had those things without their help. "No," Mark said firmly, taking my hands. "Don't you let her do that. That was a gift. A gift is not a loan. It's not a tool for manipulation. Parents are supposed to help their kids. That's what they do. She's twisting something that should have been an act of love into a weapon of control. This isn't about gratitude, Clara. This is about power." He was right. I knew he was right. But the letter was a masterclass in manipulation. It was designed to make me feel small, indebted, and wrong. "What do I do?" I asked him. "You have two choices," he said. "You can ignore it, or you can call her bluff." "What do you mean, call her bluff?" "She wants you to feel like you owe her," he said. "Your investment in my life. Mark and I will be in touch with our lawyer to arrange a repayment plan for the gifted funds. We agree that it is best to sever these financial ties. Once the debt is cleared, we will consider your invoice paid in full." I put it in an envelope, addressed it to my parents, and walked it out to the mailbox myself. As it slid into the slot, I felt a weight I didn't even realize I was carrying slide off my shoulders. Aunt Carol's words came back to me. When your mother feels like she's losing control, she escalates. Well, I was escalating right back. This was no longer about a comment at a birthday party. This was about my life. The phone rang less than 24 hours after the letter would have arrived. It was my father. His voice was frantic. "Clara, what is this? What have you done? Your mother is beside herself." I responded to her letter. I said calmly. "She sent me an invoice, so I'm offering to pay it." "That's not what she meant," he sputtered. She was just upset. You can't be serious about this lawyer talk. That's ridiculous." "Is it?" I asked. She seemed pretty serious when she listed the price of my college education. I'm just taking her at her word. She feels her love and support were a financial transaction, so I'm treating it as such. I'm settling the account. "You're tearing this family apart over a misunderstanding," he pleaded. "Dad, this is not a misunderstanding," I said, my voice hardening. "This is the culmination of 32 years of being treated like a second-class citizen in my own family. Mom made it about money, so let's settle the money. Then she'll have no reason to call me ungrateful ever again." "But we don't want the money back," he said, his voice cracking. "She seemed to think I owed it to her," I replied. "I'm just trying to be the respectful daughter she wants me to be and pay my debts." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I could hear my mother's voice in the background, sharp and angry. He was clearly getting instructions. "Your mother wants to talk to you," he said finally, his voice resigned. The phone was passed. Eleanor's voice was like ice. "So this is your new game, is it? Trying to embarrass me by throwing our generosity back in our—" "Genuinely curious. What is your definition of family, Mom?" Is it a group of people who love and support each other unconditionally? Or is it a hierarchy where one person holds all the power and everyone else has to fall in line? Because I'm interested in the first one. The second one, I can live without. She hung up on me. I stood in my kitchen, the phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the dial tone. My heart was pounding, but I wasn't scared. I felt clear. I had called her bluff and she had folded. She didn't want the money back. She wanted the leverage the money gave her. By offering to repay it, I had taken away her favorite weapon. Mark came in and wrapped his arms around me from behind. "I heard," he said. "You were incredible." "She hung up on me," I said. "Because she had nothing left to say," he replied. "You took away her power. She can't stand that." That night, I felt a shift in the dynamic. I was no longer on the defensive. I was no longer reacting to her attacks. I was setting the terms of engagement. It was a strange and unfamiliar feeling. A week went by. The silence from my parents' house was absolute. But something else happened. I got a call from Sophie. She sounded different. Not angry, but worried. "Clara, Dad told me what you did," she began, "about offering to pay them back." "Yes," I said, waiting for the attack. "Mom is going crazy," she said. "She's been ranting about it for days, but that's not why I'm calling." She hesitated. "She's planning a family trip to Italy for Dad's retirement next year." "Okay," I said slowly, unsure where this was going. "She's booking it for her, Dad, and me, and my boyfriend," Sophie said. "She told me she was going to tell you it was a surprise later, but that you probably wouldn't be able to come because of the cost." The lie was so blatant, so transparent it was almost laughable. She was planning to exclude me and then blame it on my finances. It was another way to punish me, to isolate me. "But that's not the weird part," Sophie continued, her voice dropping lower. "She's been talking to the family lawyer a lot, like multiple times. Dad seems really stressed about it. When I asked time, a trip I wasn't invited on, secret phone calls with a lawyer, getting their affairs in order." Aunt Carol's warning echoed in my head. She escalates. This wasn't about a dress anymore. It wasn't even about the money for the house. My mother was planning something bigger. She wasn't just trying to win an argument, she was trying to win a war I hadn't even known I was fighting. And I had a sickening feeling that I was about to find out exactly what the stakes were. It was time to call my Aunt Carol again. I needed someone on the inside, someone who could see what was happening from a different angle. When I called Aunt Carol and told her about the trip and the lawyer, she was quiet for a moment. "Oh, Eleanor," she sighed. "She's pulling out the big guns." "What do you mean?" I asked. "What is she doing?" "I can't be certain," Carol said carefully, "but it sounds to me like she's threatening to change her will. It's the ultimate control move, the promise of inheritance. She's rewarding Sophie for being the good daughter and punishing you for being the bad one." The idea was so cold, so transactional, that it took my breath away. My own mother, using the prospect of what she would leave behind after her death as a tool to manipulate me in the present. It was monstrous. "Would she really do that?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "In a heartbeat," Carol said without hesitation. "Clara, your mother's love has always been conditional. You know that. It's a currency she uses to buy loyalty. You've stopped accepting her currency, so she's cutting off your supply. And she's making sure Sophie gets a bonus for staying in line." I felt sick. It wasn't about the money itself. Mark and I were fine financially. We had our own life, our own savings. It was the principle. It was the sheer, calculated cruelty of it. It was the final, undeniable proof that her affection for me was not real. It was a performance, and I had been kicked out of the cast for refusing to follow the script. "What do I do?" I asked, feeling lost. "For now, you do nothing," Carol advised. "You live your life. You be happy with Mark and Lily. Don't let her see that this is getting to you. That's what she wants. She wants you to come crawling back." The situation with my parents was a constant, low thrum of anxiety in the back of my mind. I would get occasional, stilted text messages from my father. Hope you are well. Thinking of you. They were pathetic little white flags, attempts to maintain a connection without actually having to confront the real issue. I responded politely but distantly. We are fine, thanks. Hope you are too. Sophie sent me a link to a resort in Tuscany. This is where we're thinking of going for Dad's retirement trip. Doesn't it look amazing? It was a test. She was flaunting the exclusion, trying to get a reaction from me. The old me would have been hurt. The old me would have replied with something passive-aggressive. The new me simply replied, "Looks nice. Have fun." Her response was a single question mark. She didn't know what to do with my lack of reaction. I was no longer playing my assigned role of the jealous, slighted sister. It was throwing her off balance. The quiet war of attrition continued. My mother would post photos on social media of her and Sophie having lunch, getting manicures, going shopping. The captions were always pointed. So lucky to have a daughter who is also my best friend. A wonderful day with my thoughtful, loving girl. It was all for my benefit. I knew it was. She was curating a public narrative of the perfect mother-daughter relationship with Sophie, in stark contrast to the fractured one with me. I muted her posts. I refused to look. Then, one afternoon, I got an email from an unknown address. The subject line was just my name. I almost deleted it, thinking it was spam, but something made me open it. The email was from my Aunt Carol. The body of the message was short. "Clara, I think you need to see this. I'm sorry. Love, Carol." Attached was a forwarded email chain. My stomach clenched as I saw the sender. My mother. The recipient was the family lawyer. I clicked on the attachment. The emails were a series of exchanges from the past month. I read them, my blood turning to ice. My mother was not just threatening to write me out of the will. She had already done it. In cold, formal language, she instructed the lawyer to amend her and my father's trust to leave all assets directly to Sophie. She cited my estrangement from actions, and she was roping my father and sister into it as her witnesses. They were complicit in this. And then I saw the final piece of the puzzle. The lawyer replied with a question about a specific joint savings account, one that was in my parents' names but had been earmarked for family emergencies for years. My mother's reply was chilling. "We will be closing that account and transferring the funds to Sophie directly as a gift. She has been so attentive and supportive during this difficult time. She deserves a reward for her loyalty. We can frame it as an early inheritance distribution to help her with a down payment on a house." It was all there, in black and white. The plan, the motive, the betrayal. It was a coordinated attack. The insults were designed to provoke me. My reaction was used as justification. Sophie's attentiveness was her playing her part to secure the prize, and my father, my quiet, peace-at-all-costs father, was letting it all happen. I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. The anxiety, the uncertainty, the hurt. It all vanished. It was replaced by a cold, hard certainty. I finally saw the full picture. I was not dealing with a difficult mother. I was dealing with a calculating adversary, and she had just handed me all the ammunition I would ever need. I saved the emails to a flash drive. I printed them out and put them in a safe. I sat at my kitchen table and thought. They thought they had won. They thought they had successfully cut me out, punished me, and secured the family fortune for the golden child. They were celebrating their victory in private, planning their trip to Italy, while I was supposed to be licking my wounds in ignorant silence. But they had made a mistake. They had underestimated me. And they had no idea that their star witness, my Aunt Carol, had just defected to my side. I knew I couldn't just confront them with the emails. That would lead to more denial, more gaslighting. "Carol must have hacked my account. Those emails are fake." I needed a stage. I needed an audience. I needed to do to my mother exactly what she had done to me. I needed to humiliate her publicly. And I knew the perfect occasion: my father's retirement party. According to a family cold fury. These people are monsters, he said quietly. Your father, too. He's just as bad, letting this happen. I know, I said. So, are you with me on this? He looked at me, his eyes full of love and a fierce protectiveness. Clara, I will back you up whatever you decide to do. If you want to burn it all down, I'll hand you the matches. His support was everything. I wasn't alone in this. I had my own family, my real family. The day of the retirement party arrived. I chose my outfit carefully. Not a simple sundress, but a sharp, elegant black sheath dress. It was a power dress. I did my hair and makeup with precision. I was not going in as a victim. I was going in as an executioner. Mark and I walked into the country club. The room was buzzing with conversation and laughter. We saw my family holding court near the podium. My mother was dressed in a glittering gold dress, laughing with a group of my father's colleagues. My father was beaming, a drink in his hand. Sophie was standing beside them, looking radiant and smug. They looked like the perfect family. They saw us enter. My mother's smile faltered for a second. My father's face went pale. Sophie just looked annoyed that we had dared to show up. My mother recovered quickly. She approached us, her smile plastered back on her face. It was her public smile, the one that didn't reach her eyes. "Clara, darling," she said, loud enough for those around her to hear. "I'm so glad you decided to come. I was worried you were still upset." This was her first move. To paint me as the moody child who was still upset, trivializing the entire conflict. "Hello, Mom," I said, my voice cool and even. Of course we came. We wouldn't miss celebrating Dad's retirement. She kissed the air next to my cheek. "Well, I'm glad we can put all that unpleasantness behind us and be a family again," she said, turning to include the people listening in her little performance of forgiveness. I looked her straight in the eye. This is it. The time is now. "I'm not sure we can," I said, my voice still calm but carrying through the small circle that had formed around us. "It's hard to put things behind you when they're still happening." Her smile tightened. Public performance. Sophie stepped up. "Clara, stop it. You're ruining everything." "Am I?" I asked, turning to her. "Or am I just finally telling the truth? The truth about the secret trip to Italy you're all planning without me? The truth about the will?" The word will hung in the air. The chatter in the room around us began to die down. People were turning to look. "That's a disgusting accusation," my mother snapped. "How dare you bring up something so private and morbid at your father's celebration?" "You're the one who brought it up, Mom," I said, "when you called the lawyer. When you instructed him to write me out completely. When you told him it was because I was hostile and disrespectful." My father looked like he was going to faint. "Clara, please," he begged. "No, Dad," I said, my voice ringing with a clarity I had never felt before. "No more staying quiet. No more smoothing things over. You all stood by and let her do this. You, Dad, you enabled it. And you, Sophie, you benefited from it. You played the part of the loyal daughter so you could get your reward." "That's not true," Sophie cried, but her eyes darted away. She couldn't look at me. "Isn't it?" I pressed on, my voice getting stronger. "What about the family emergency fund, Sophie? The one Mom was going to give you as a gift? The one that was supposed to be for all of us?" My mother's face had gone from red to a pasty white. "You don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice trembling. "Oh, I think I do," I said. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. I had the emails open, ready to go. "I know all about your conversations with the lawyer. I know how you lied about what happened at Lily's party. I know that you described me as having a volatile temper to justify disinheriting me." A collective gasp went through the small crowd that was now shamelessly listening to every word. I looked at my mother, whose carefully constructed world was crumbling around her. "You wanted to punish me," I said, my voice dropping to a near whisper, but it carried in the silent room. "You wanted to control me. And when you couldn't, you decided to erase me. You thought you could do it quietly." Sadness. "You are a coward. You let her do this to your own daughter because you were too afraid to stand up to her. I hope your quiet life was worth it. Then I looked at Sophie. And you. You sold your sister out for a trip to Italy and a down payment on a house. I hope it makes you happy. You'll need something to keep you company because you've lost me forever. With that, I put my phone back in my purse. I took Mark's hand and we turned and walked out of the room. I didn't look back. I could feel the stares of dozens of people on my back. I could imagine the stunned silence we left in our wake. I could picture my mother's face, a mask of fury and utter humiliation. As we stepped out into the cool night air, I took a deep breath. It was over. I had done it. I had set fire to the whole rotten structure, and I had walked out of the flames without getting burned. I felt light. I felt free. The war was finally over and I had won. Not by getting the money, but by exposing the truth. That was a victory worth more than any inheritance. The drive home was quiet. Mark held my hand the entire way. When we walked into our dark, peaceful house, I finally let the tears come. They weren't tears of sadness or anger. They were tears of relief, of release. All the years of pain and frustration and feeling less than were washing away. "You were so strong," Mark whispered, holding me tight. "I've never been more proud of you." "I can't believe I did it," I said, my voice muffled against his shoulder. "You did," he said. "You took back your power. They can never hurt you again." The next day, the fallout began. The first call was from Aunt Carol. "Well," she said, her voice a mixture of awe and exhaustion, "you certainly know how to make an exit." "What happened after we left?" I asked, bracing myself. "It was a disaster," she said, and I could hear a small smile in her voice. "Complete and utter chaos. Eleanor tried to play the victim, of course. Started crying about how you've always been a difficult child, how you twisted everything. But the damage was done. Nobody was buying it. You were too calm, too specific. You had facts. Stood up to my sister years ago. You're braver than I ever was. You enjoy your peace, Clara. You've earned it." The second call came that evening. It was my father. His voice was hoarse. "Clara," he said. "Just my name." "What do you want, Dad?" I asked. There was no anger left, just a hollow emptiness. I'm so sorry," he stammered. I didn't know she was going to. The will. I didn't realize." "You didn't realize?" I cut him off. "Or you didn't want to realize. You saw how she treated me my entire life. You saw her plan that trip without me. You heard her lies. You stood right next to her and let her do it all. Don't you dare pretend you're some innocent bystander. Your silence was a choice. You chose her over me. Every single time." "I love you," he whispered, his voice cracking. "You're my daughter." "I am," I said, "but you have a funny way of showing it. Goodbye, Dad." I hung up the phone. I knew it might be the last time we ever spoke. The thought was sad, but it wasn't devastating. I was mourning the father I wished I'd had, not the one I actually did. Sophie sent a long, rambling text message a few days later. It was a chaotic mix of accusations and half-hearted apologies. She was angry that I had ruined Dad's party. She was sorry that Mom had been mean. She claimed she didn't know about the will, only about the money for the house. She said I had made everything a million times worse by making it public. She ended by asking how we could ever fix this. I read the message and felt nothing but pity for her. She was still trapped, still trying to play by the rules of a game that was rigged against everyone but our mother. She didn't understand that the only way to win was not to play. I didn't reply. I just blocked her number, and my mother's, and my father's. I severed the connection. It was a clean cut. Life became quiet after that. Beautifully, blessedly quiet. The constant background noise of my family's drama was gone. I no longer dreaded the phone ringing. I no longer braced myself for the next backhanded compliment or passive-aggressive text. Mark and I went ahead with our plan. We contacted "Happier than I've ever seen you." She was right. I was happy. I was free. My little family of 3 was my entire world, And it was a world built on honesty, respect, and unconditional love. Everything my childhood home was not. Sometimes, late at night, I would think about them. I imagined them in their big, quiet house, the three of them. My mother, clinging to her power over a shrinking kingdom. My father, living his quiet life at the cost of his integrity. And Sophie, the golden child, with her trip to Italy and her reward, discovering that the prize wasn't worth the price of admission. She had our mother's full, undivided attention now. I could only imagine how suffocating that must be. They thought their money was their power over me. They thought their approval was the air I needed to breathe. They never understood that my freedom from them was my power. They were trapped in their toxic little drama, playing out the same sad scenes over and over again. And I was finally, wonderfully, out. One afternoon, Lily and I were in the backyard, planting flowers. She was covered in dirt and grinning from ear to ear. "Mommy," she said, holding up a bright red tulip bulb, "this one is the prettiest." "It is, sweetie," I said, smiling at her. "Let's find the perfect spot for it." As we dug in the warm earth, a thought came to me, clear and simple. I hadn't just escaped a toxic family. I had broken a cycle. Lily would never know the feeling of competing for her mother's love. She would never be compared to a sibling. She would never be made to feel that she was not enough. Her world would be different. Her world would be safe. And that was the greatest victory of all. The inheritance they had tried to deny me was worthless compared to the legacy I was building for her. A legacy of love, not of transactions. A legacy of freedom, not of control.